Okay, and welcome everybody. My name is Ray Moeller. I'm part of the Brownfield Center at WVU and had the pleasure and opportunity to work with the Rupert School project, and then we're happy to present that today. Rupert is a small town in western Greenbrier County, and Matt Ford is going to tell you a little bit more about the Meadow River Valley Association, and Rupert is in their footprint, and he'll give you that background and how the project came about. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the Brownfield office got engaged, and then Dustin Smith will give kind of the recap of where the project went, and Woodlands Development Group got involved. Dustin is a I don't know what your title is, Dustin, program manager or?
I'm the director of project development.
Yep, director of project development at Woodlands, and he'll be telling you a little bit more about that. Matt Ford does all things Meadow River Valley, and actually runs his own business. So we're, again, glad to bring this to you. And as people join, again, just feel free to put questions in the chat. This is a small enough group that at the end of the presentation, we'll probably just take people off. You know, you can come off your mic and ask questions out loud if you want to as well. And we'll be glad to let you know how we're trying to keep the Rupert School from becoming one of those schools in West Virginia that's sitting over on the corner, falling in and stuff like that. So Matt Ford, why don't you go ahead and share your screen and get us going.
Well, good afternoon. As Ray mentioned, my name is Matt Ford. I'm co-owner of Greenbrier Environmental Group, but here to talk today about a nonprofit organization that I assist with called Meadow River Valley Association. About MRVA, it all started, I always start most of my talks with, in the beginning, there was a flood. And in June 2016, there were catastrophic floods in southern West Virginia, and it forced people to work together. Feet of water, mud, you name it, in homes, and people had to work together to get life somewhat back to normal and move on. And we knew that we had to help coordinate that effort, so we started Greater Greenbrier Long-Term Recovery Committee, and we started out meeting very often to talk about, normal flood recovery issues, where supplies were and where help was. But through all those community meetings, we understood that we needed to somehow keep people working together after the water and the mud was gone. So in 2018, we established Meadow River Valley Association to promote community collaboration and economic development in the Meadow River Valley, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So what we did for the first couple years, at least, were regular monthly community gatherings where we would meet at a little restaurant called Fruits of Labor in Raynell, and we'd share a meal and share ideas and things we needed to work on, and then that led to larger get-togethers where we would plan out things that needed to happen in the local towns in the valley. And this is a photo from one of those. But we just learned that getting people together, sharing ideas was key to helping get our projects off the ground. And through all those meetings and network and at that time spent, we developed a tremendous list of partners that have helped with other projects. We joined, we were accepted for the Blueprint Communities program and other programs, West Virginia focused through the Brownfields. Various other partners have come on board to help us out. But through the Blueprint Communities program, we decided to focus on redevelopment of the former Rupert Elementary School campus. And it's in the town of Rupert. And this school wasn't necessarily flooded, like it wasn't inundated with water, but the mountain that you can see behind this overview picture When you get 11 inches of rain in the 24-hour period, all that stormwater runoff ran through the parking, over the parking lot, through the buildings. And the county school system was able to get money to build a new school in another location. So that left this campus to be unused. And we have other, like many other communities in West Virginia and throughout the country, we have existing abandoned school buildings that are a tremendous nuisance to the community that they're in. And we didn't want this campus to be an issue, and it was in very good shape. But frankly, we had no clue what to do. We were a community group, or still are a community group that is still learning. And through the partnerships that we had built through all our community gatherings and networking, we were able to pull together a team and get assistance to help move this project along. But this is the campus. It consists of 5 different buildings, one of which has been demolished. But we have plans to put in a helicopter pad for local emergency services, and that's being done by the local fire department. The Marvel Center is currently in development, which is an early childhood learning center. And then there's a portion of the campus, which is the old high school building that is going to be used, and Dustin will talk more about that. But then we also have the gymnasium, which a local coach and teacher has taken over and done a great job remodeling it into use for wrestling and other activities. But our goal was to have this campus be provide support in a number of different areas, from emergency services, affordable housing, increase to medical services, recreation. I didn't mention in the old high school building, we're planning to do senior housing and put in a clinic, which is currently in development. There's a picture of the building. It's 3 stories. We'll talk more about that next when Dustin does speak about the work that's been done there. But the key partners on redevelopment of that old school building is Woodlands Development and others there listed. Right?
All right, thanks, Matt. Great introduction. I think Matt is somewhat understated in his delivery, because the Meadow River Valley Association has done wonderful work in Western Greenbrier County, and it's not a small task taking on a multi-acre, multi-building campus and trying to bring it to fruition with the various aspects that the Meadow River Valley Group has done. I think there may even be like a local foods aspect of what they're trying to do with the old high school cafeteria as well. That I don't remember if Matt mentioned that, but what a great task that they're taking on. So I'm going to share my screen now and continue the discussion about the Rupert School and the project engagement at the Brownfield office. And my program at the Brownfield office is called Downtown Appalachia. So we were able to participate in a couple of ways to help facilitate and assist this project in moving forward. Matt and I had talked quite a while back about the project. Initially, it didn't feel like a fit for Downtown Appalachia. Our office ended up having a program called FOCUS, which is an acronym. If you know Patrick Kirby, you know that we like having acronyms, and FOCUS stands for, focusing on overcoming challenges and utilizing strengths. I think that's FOCUS. Carrie, you can correct me.
Foundations is the F. Everything else.
Foundations. Yeah, foundation of overcoming challenges and utilizing strengths. Anyway, there's small community grants that are pretty flexible, and people can utilize, organizations can utilize them to move projects along. The Rupert School project applied and was awarded a $5,000 focus grant to just get some early environmental and architectural analysis of the site to just see what was possible and what kind of state the building was in, so that they could further consider the work that they had in mind. So just to prove that we did that, there's a huge check that we provided them. And I got to participate in a visit with many of the partners that Matt mentioned at the school. You can see the big advantage, the lights are on there in the background of the school. We were able to meet up in one of the school rooms and walk through. And as a side note, Carrie and I are part of the Abandoned Properties Coalition, which is just a coalition of partners from around the state to work on abandoned property issues and strategies and things. And one of the Abandoned Properties Coalition teams is an abandoned schools team. And we are working really hard to try and help it be recognized, the value of having a plan for when schools are going to be shut down and consolidated and new construction takes place, to try and get the Board of Education to think about what's next for the building rather than just shutting it up and then letting come what may. So this is a sterling example of getting active as the school becomes and partnering with the Board of Education to try and make that good outcome a reality. So $5,000 check was presented and utilized to bring architectural analysis and feasibility study and cost analysis. Okay, what would it cost to bring this on, and identified that housing and maybe perhaps low income or senior housing would be the best strategy for the upper floors. Again, Dustin will talk a little bit more about some of the specifics of the development that the development package that we're trying to put together. And we also were able to do provide the money to do an environmental phase 2 assessment, so we know what we're headed into environmentally with this building. Project team formation took place. We were just, I was able to play a role in just helping to bring together some of the players. Initially, there was a private developer involved, and then the things just weren't kind of rolling with that. And so then we ended up engaging Woodlands Development Group and Dustin and some of the related people from their team. And that became a stronger redevelopment option. And the local team strength can't be understated. Meadow River Valley, the Greenbrier Valley Economic Development Corporation, the County Commission, the Brownfield Office, the Hub, Board of Education, all those acronym logos that Matt had on his screen, it was a reality. A lot of those people were in these meetings and trying to help move the needle on this. So teamwork was the key to the accomplishments that have been made and for the project that we're trying to pull off now. And this work is not easy. And I'm gonna let Dustin Smith give you some of the details of the challenges that we faced. But these are, and you'll see these names mentioned again. Matt had them on his slide. Virginia Community Development Corporation helped with financing. Woodlands on the redevelopment management process. Because the EPA had provided some phase 1 and phase 2 assessments, they provided a supplemental grant. So we were able to tap into a key resource for some of our grant applications. And then my Downtown Appalachia program provided some of the pre-development technical assistance along with other sources to help some of what Dustin's going to talk about become a reality. And so I will stop sharing. And Dustin, the baton is in your hand.
Right. I will start sharing then. Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for that introduction, Ray. Like Ray said, my name is Dustin Smith, and I work for Woodlands Development Group as the Director of Project Development here. And I thought I would just start with a kind of a brief introduction to Woodlands. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're a community development entity. But then we're also a developer and we're also our own general contractor. So a lot of the work that we've traditionally focused on centers around affordable housing, which is obviously a core part of our mission. And that's why a lot of our work tends to focus around that. So we often develop new buildings. We will rehab historic structures. We work on vacant, dilapidated structures, and then we also staff community planning efforts too. And we often think of ourselves largely as a planning organization, because all the projects that we get involved in largely come out of a community conversation. We never really want to, be kind of going from the top down. We always want conversations to start on the ground, and then we develop an idea of how to address the issues that get identified from that. And I should also say that we also operate a CDFI called Woodlands Community Lenders that does small business lending and technical services. And historically, we have served 3 counties in West Virginia: Randolph, Barber, and Tucker counties up here, kind of northern central West Virginia, and have not really strayed too far outside of that 3-county area until this project, really. So we decided to, branch out and do some work in Greenbrier County, largely because of all the work that was already going on with the Rupert School and the strength of the program and the partnerships there. So with Meadow River Valley, for an entirely volunteer organization, essentially, the amount of work that they've already accomplished is very impressive, and really we want to try to leverage those key partnerships whenever we're doing work like this. And then, of course, we've got experience working with Ray and Brownfields, and, he largely brought together a lot of the key members with this project, including VCDC, who is a syndicator who we've worked with on other tax credit deals in the past. And we have a really great working relationship with them, who is another very community-minded organization. And the project architect, Bryson Van Nostrand, is another architect that we've worked with on previous rehabilitation projects and tax credit projects, and I've had a good working relationship with. So, because all those parties, were involved and, seemed to be a lot of momentum and progress, with this project, we thought that it was a great opportunity to kind of, branch out, try to lend some assistance to what was already a pretty great effort going on down there. Largely because, we're motivated to see more entities and groups doing this kind of work across the state. I just feel like there aren't enough groups, doing this kind of development work, like everyone has kind of already touched on, there are a lot of projects and buildings similar to the Rupert School that are in desperate need of some work and attention. And it's no small feat to make that happen. It takes a lot of time and effort, and these projects are certainly not easy. So really, we want to try to, help lend some capacity to the project, and at the same time, help build the capacity for organizations like MIRVA to do more of this work in the future. So that was really, how we came to get involved in the project. And, like I was saying, I think that we just need kind of more developers across the state, but at the same time, I think we should be thinking about what kind of developers we want in the state. Because like Ray was saying, for-profit developers, may look at this project and see that it is going to require a lot of work and time, and margins are going to be thin, and profits are probably, not going to be as high as they may be on some other projects. So if you are a profit motivated entity, maybe the motivation won't be there for you on a project like this. So yeah, building up really civic and community-minded organizations to do more of this work across state is a high priority for us, I'll say. And so when it came to the Rupert School, we first started to kind of look at, what the redevelopment strategy was going to be. And, we knew that there's a lack of affordable housing in the area. And we knew that there was a local healthcare clinic that was looking to possibly move into a bigger space. So it seemed like a pretty perfect pairing to try to develop some senior housing units on the upper floors and develop out the first floor space for that healthcare clinic. And, also provide a lot of services to the tenants to help them really age in place. And also try to keep rents as affordable as we possibly could, given the market. So we looked at several financial tools to address this project. And, I'll say we got involved and started talking about this project probably in March of this year. And, several applications were due kind of by the end of May. So we really scrambled and hurried up and tried to put together a low-income housing tax credit project proposal, as well as a Section 202 application, which is a program developed, ran by HUD that is not consistently advertised year after year, and it's geared towards low-income senior housing. So we put together applications for both of those. Unfortunately, we just found out recently that those were not successful. But in the same amount of time, we've also put together a Federal Home Loan Bank application for the housing portion, and that review process is ongoing. So we should find out something at least by December of this year. So yeah, I think this, kind of brings to light the fact that these projects are inherently complicated and difficult, and a redevelopment strategy will sometimes change over time, depending on what works and what doesn't. I'll say that we are likely going to apply again for some of these financial incentives, including the low-income housing tax credits. But we may need to look at other sources of financing, like historic tax credits. So when we originally were looking at the project proposal here, we thought that historic tax credits may be a little more difficult just because the building has had, some alterations, not, an extreme amount, but it's not currently listed on the National Register. And also the, kind of the ideal layout for the healthcare clinic would mean that we may have to make some alterations to kind of the central corridor spaces. Excuse me. But, as we've kind of continued to look at the project, I think that we may want to revisit the idea of using historic tax credits on it, and start to look whether that would really be feasible. And yeah, at the same time, I think that's, all of these things are a group discussion, between all the partner organizations. And one of the great things about this project is that everyone here is, sitting around the same table, with the same goals in mind, and, a lot of high capacity, intelligent people, working together to try to address this one project. So as we've, continued on, we're working on, kind of identifying our scope of work and identifying possible contractors in the area that might want to work with us on this project, and just generally trying to move the needle along. Yeah, I'm sure this may not be the last bad buildings presentation about the Rupert School. And that's all I had.
I liked what Dustin, when he sent me his presentation, it was titled "Not So Bad of a Building." So I liked how he termed the phrase on that. That is the extent of our presentation. And I don't know if any questions showed up in the chat, but I'd welcome everybody to turn on their video. I mean, unless they don't want to be recorded, so fully understood, but also would invite people to come off mute and ask questions. Or Nicole, were there any questions in the chat for us?
There were actually not any questions in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them now. You can unmute yourself if you would like, or throw it in the chat.
All right, we got a quiet crew that had just had lunch and everybody's just trying to stay focused. I get that as well. Matt, how about if you could speak just a little bit about additional activities that Meadow River Valley has going on in the area? You don't have to go to a big extent, but just kind of give a feel for your community group activity, and then just maybe how the Rupert School became sort of a focus for your group.
Sure. So one overarching premise of Meadow River Valley Association is addressing one of the longstanding issues that exists in a lot of communities, is divisions. So in Greenbrier County, there's an east and west division, wherever that imaginary line is, you know, that goes. And then individual towns kind of competed against each other to their own detriment. So we've been working to develop an identity for the region rather than being the West End or Western Greenbrier. We wanted people to refer themselves to the area as Meadow River Valley, mainly because, like when I mentioned the floods, there were people that came from all over the country and beyond to help with cleanup, and they would look around and they would say, "This is a beautiful area." And the people that lived there would be like, "Really? You think the little town of Rainelle is a nice place? I don't know." And so the whole rebranding, if you will, of the region was to get people to look at internally to look at the where they lived at differently. So we started that, and it's been fairly successful, and we've been able to get people to work together to the extent that often you can. We have another project. We took over a 8.5 acre park a couple years ago. One of the problems that we have is people don't see planning. So you can work a lot and be doing an extensive amount of effort, but the community doesn't see it. And if they don't see it, they don't believe it. So this park has helped us to have projects that the community can drive by every day and they can see improvements happening that are led by Meadow River Valley Association. That park, we've made that park look a lot better. We worked with DNR to put in a boat launch. We're working on having others installed to increase recreational opportunities. And we're working with the Greenbrier and Fayette County Commissions to design and construct the Meadow River Rail Trail, which will be a significant recreation booster for the Meadow River Valley. That's the majority of what we're working on now, but it's how Rupert became the focus was through what ended up being about a 1.5 year long process with Blueprint Communities, and they made us focus. We've got a very hardworking group, and we didn't mind kind of stretching our resources on their various projects, but they suggested we focus on the Rupert School project, which has been ideal for us. We developed a strategic plan through Blueprint Communities, and that's led to where we are now with Rupert School, while still keeping the other projects going, but putting that focus on that Rupert School redevelopment.
So that Hub Blueprint Communities effort also, in addition to some organizational and goal-oriented activity, provided a pretty high functioning AmeriCorps position as well. That was key to a lot of what we did with this housing application, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's only so much that people with other jobs and other interests, and we've got people who are retired Marine colonels, and I own a business, and other people who have other things to do. And if it's your second or third or fourth focus as an individual, it's hard to get things accomplished. But having that vista in place, it's been able to focus and sometimes rein all the talent in, if you will, in the group has been instrumental.
And I'll just mention that former Marine colonel was a key member of this team, and actually the winner of the Community Brownfield Award this last year. So Dave Lumsden was a very significant contributor, local community connector. Matt is well connected, but Dave is like ultra connected, right? So
Absolutely.
And Dustin, you guys, again, Woodlands very strong in the 3-county territory. Very appreciative that you were willing to step out, and we are looking to try and expand upon organizations that are doing similar activity, build the wherewithal. Meadow River Valley, perhaps, if this could be, as we get successful in this project, kind of furthering that on. Any additional thoughts regarding kind of the direction for Woodlands and that looking for that activity around the state a little broader?
Well, I'll say I think you both touched on an important part, and it's hard to do everything when you're largely a volunteer organization, and if you can get to that point where you're able to have some full-time staff members, that can really make a big difference in terms of your capacity as an organization. So that's a big part of why we're doing this project is, hopefully Meadow River Valley can not only get some experience, but also, maybe be able to get a little bit of income from the project and help, kind of fund future staffing efforts. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I think it's always on our mind how we could help other high capacity organizations. And if there are opportunities out there where we can leverage resources, yeah, I love talking to people about community development and how we can help communities around the state. So yeah, we'll see what lies in the future for us.
Excellent. And our office, the Brownfield office, the focus program is not active. Again, we had about 8 or 10 focus projects around the state that had varying accomplishments utilizing that mini grant startup. And sometimes, like in the case of the Rupert School, the mini grant can lead to one thing leading to another, and that engagement can be portending a successful outcome. I think we're going to be successful here in Rupert School. We got a couple of pretty determined organizations getting after it, and so that's cool. And the Downtown Appalachia program, even though it's wrapping up, we have a couple of offshoots of it that were just recently Power Grant funded. One called the Downtown Appalachia Revitalizing Recreation Economies, which is aimed at the Mon-Forest Town region. And that's just getting its feet under it, and we'll partner with Woodlands and others to try and provide some successful redevelopment opportunity in the small Mon towns that are gateways to this beautiful area. And another program called Opportunity Appalachia, which is a multi-state program looking at larger projects, kind of with a focus on how to create the financial stack to allow these larger projects to be successful. So more to come on all of these fronts. Folks, I guess we'll give you another shot if there's anybody that wants to come off mute and ask or expound upon anything that they've heard. Well, Nicole, I think we've stunned the audience. We've left them speechless. And man, I really want to thank Dustin and Matt for making the time to be a part of this today. It is recorded, so we'll be putting that recording out for others to be able to view it and hopefully learn from it or be encouraged by it. But if that's probably all we have to offer. So I don't know, Nicole, Carrie, anybody, if there's any wrap up we want to provide?
All I was going to say is that the recording should be available soon. Please feel free to join us at our next Bad Buildings webinar, October 28th at the same time, 1 to 2. And we're going to be hearing from some people around the state about the tax sale process. So you guys will get an email and it'll be posted on social media for you guys to sign up. But yes, the next webinar will be October 28th at 1 p.m. And I believe that is all. I just want to thank you, Ray and Dustin and Matt, again for joining us and putting this together for us. And until next time, see everyone and have a good rest of the day.